Ladies and gentlemen, growth is not a matter of age. Growth is a matter of awareness. You don't grow old, you grow up. And as you grow up, something begins to change inside you. You stop reacting, and you start responding with wisdom. That's the mark of true maturity. The more you grow, the less you react. Growth is not measured by how much information you gather, but by how you respond to life when it tests you. You see, many people confuse knowledge with maturity. But knowledge without understanding produces reaction, while knowledge with understanding produces wisdom. The difference between a person who reacts and a person who responds is the level of growth they have allowed in their life. Immature people are quick to react because they have not developed the patience to pause. They feel insulted by every comment, disturbed by every opinion, and offended by every criticism. But when you begin to grow, something inside you changes. You realize that not everything deserves your attention, not every argument needs your words, not every insult requires a comeback. Growth teaches you that silence can be more powerful than words. It teaches you that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. As you grow, you begin to value purpose over emotion. You no longer allow your feelings to drive your decisions because you understand that feelings are temporary, but purpose is permanent. You recognize that every reaction costs you something: time, energy, focus. And you become careful about what you spend your emotional currency on. You understand that people's opinions of you are not your responsibility to correct. You are not obligated to explain yourself to everyone who misunderstands you. Growth gives you the power to let go. You let go of the need to be right all the time. You let go of the desire to be liked by everyone. You let go of the urge to defend yourself against baseless accusations. Because when you are secure in who you are, you no longer feel the need to prove it to anyone else. A growing person becomes aware that reaction is often a sign of insecurity, while calmness is a reflection of inner strength. When you are insecure, you feel the need to react quickly to protect your ego. But when you are secure, you respond from a place of confidence, not fear. You understand that someone else's behavior does not dictate your character. You don't allow someone's immaturity to drag you into unnecessary conflicts. Growth teaches you emotional discipline. You no longer say everything that comes to your mind. You no longer act on every impulse. You learn to filter your thoughts before they become words. You pause. You reflect. You respond with intention, not emotion. As you grow, you also develop a higher perspective. You begin to see that many people who offend you are actually struggling within themselves. Their harsh words, their rude behavior, their criticisms are often projections of their own insecurities. And because you see deeper, you don't take offense personally. You begin to empathize with people instead of fighting them. You realize that their reaction says more about their heart than about your worth. Growth gives you the wisdom to rise above petty offenses. You stop giving your energy to things that are beneath your assignment. You recognize that your purpose is too great to be distracted by small-minded arguments. The more you grow, the more you learn to pick your battles wisely. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every critic deserves your response. Not every conversation deserves your participation. Growth teaches you to be strategic with your focus. You become intentional with your words. You understand that energy spent on trivial matters is energy stolen from your destiny. Growth also transforms how you perceive challenges. You stop seeing offense as an attack and start seeing it as an opportunity to practice patience, humility, and emotional strength. Every criticism becomes a lesson. Every conflict becomes a classroom. Every insult becomes an opportunity to exercise self-control. When you grow, you stop being reactive and start becoming reflective. You ask yourself, what is this situation teaching me? How can I grow through this instead of just going through this? Growth shifts your mindset from reaction to reflection. You no longer allow situations to control your mood. You take charge of your inner environment. You become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You set the atmosphere instead of being affected by it. You understand that emotional reactions are easy, but emotional mastery is rare, and that's what sets you apart. The more you grow, the less you react because you no longer operate at the surface level. You have depth, you have stability. People can throw stones at you, but they cannot shake you. You become an example of calmness in a chaotic world. People look at you and see a person who is not easily moved by circumstances. You become a symbol of maturity, a pillar of emotional intelligence, a model of inner peace. Growth makes you an example, not an echo. While others are busy reacting to life, you are busy creating life. While others are wasting energy on conflicts, you are investing energy into your calling. True growth is silent, it doesn't make noise, but its impact is loud. You don't have to announce your maturity, people will feel it in your presence. The more you grow, the less you react, and the more you influence. Because influence is not found in loud reactions, but in quiet strength. Growth is not just a change in your age, it's a transformation in your mindset. The true evidence of growth is not how much you know, but how little you react to the things that once triggered you. You see, in the early stages of life, we are conditioned to believe that every attack must be defended, every criticism must be addressed, and every offense must be countered. But as you grow, you begin to understand that reacting to everything around you is a sign of immaturity, not strength. Growth teaches you the art of restraint. It teaches you that silence is sometimes the most powerful answer you can give. It teaches you that you don't need to lower yourself to every insult, because not every battle is worthy of a warrior. There is a wisdom that comes with growth where you recognize that reacting emotionally is expensive. It costs you your peace, it drains your energy, and it distracts you from your assignment. When you are immature, you are quick to react because you are still looking for external validation. But when you grow, you stop seeking approval from people who don't even understand your purpose. The more you grow, the more you realize that reacting is easy, but responding with wisdom requires discipline. Growth matures your perception. It elevates you above pettiness. You begin to see that many of the offenses you once took personally are not even about you. People's actions are often reflections of their own struggles, not statements about your value. A growing person stops reacting to the noise of others because they are too focused on their vision. You learn that your response should never be a reaction to someone's ignorance. Instead, your life should be a reflection of your character, your purpose, and your destiny. You don't need to shout to be heard when your actions speak louder than words. Growth makes you immune to unnecessary conflicts. You don't waste time trying to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't chase after every rumor. You don't engage in every argument. You conserve your energy for things that build your future. You become strategic with your emotional investments. Growth teaches you that peace is more valuable than proving a point. The more you grow, the more you value your inner peace. You don't hand over your emotional control to external circumstances. You become the master of your own spirit. Offense will come, challenges will arise, but you will choose how you respond. Growth gives you the ability to pause before you respond, to reflect before you speak, and to choose wisdom over reaction. You stop living life based on what happens to you and start living based on what's happening within you. You realize that every situation is a test of your maturity. Growth shifts your focus from reacting to others to developing yourself. You stop seeing conflicts as battles to win and start seeing them as lessons to learn. Even when people misunderstand you, you choose to respond with grace because you understand that your assignment is too important to be derailed by distractions. You become emotionally unshakable, mentally focused, and spiritually anchored. The more you grow, the less you feel the need to react because you now understand that reaction often comes from insecurity, but calmness flows from confidence. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone when you know who you are. Growth is the journey from reacting for validation to responding from security. A growing person no longer seeks to win arguments, but to win in life. You stop trying to win small battles and focus on the bigger vision ahead of you. You learn that being right is not as important as being aligned with your purpose. You stop engaging in conflicts that don't align with your destiny. Growth elevates you to a place where you no longer mirror the noise around you, but set the tone for the atmosphere you want to create. You become an influencer by example, not by argument. Your silence becomes louder than their noise. Your calmness becomes stronger than their chaos. Your focus becomes greater than their distractions. When you truly grow, you develop a filter between what happens to you and how you respond to it. You realize that you don't have to attend every argument you are invited to. You don't have to respond to every critic that calls your name. Growth is when you understand that sometimes the best response is no response. Not because you are weak, but because you are too strong to be pulled into immaturity. Growth transforms your reaction into reflection. You stop being a prisoner of your emotions and become the master of your responses. The more you grow, the more you realize that emotional discipline is a sign of true power. A powerful person is not the one who reacts to everything, but the one who controls what they allow to disturb their spirit. Growth changes your priorities. You start focusing on what matters most. You start building rather than battling. You stop being distracted by irrelevant opinions because you are too focused on your divine assignment. The more you grow, the less you react because you know your value is not diminished by someone else's ignorance. You learn to walk away not out of fear, but out of focus. You protect your peace, you guard your energy, and you invest your time in things that build your future. That is the true sign of growth. The less you react, the more you rise. The more you grow, the less you react because growth brings clarity, and clarity produces calmness. When a person is immature, they react to everything because they are emotionally led, driven by the opinions and behaviors of others. Every comment becomes an offense, every disagreement feels like a personal attack, and every conflict demands their attention. But when you grow, you begin to rise above emotional impulses. You realize that reacting is often a sign of insecurity, while staying calm in the storm is a mark of true maturity. Growth allows you to see beyond the surface. You understand that not every action requires a reaction, and not every battle is worthy of your energy. You become strategic, not emotional. You begin to weigh the cost of reacting versus the value of staying focused. Growth gives you the ability to guard your peace because you understand that peace is too expensive to be sacrificed for the sake of petty arguments. As you grow, you stop reacting out of emotion and start responding with intention. Emotional maturity is the ability to pause before you speak, to reflect before you act, and to evaluate before you engage. Growth gives you a higher perspective, and that perspective allows you to see the bigger picture of life. You realize that people's negative behaviors are often a reflection of their own inner battles, not a true reflection of you. So instead of reacting to their offense, you rise above it with understanding. Growth teaches you that silence can be an answer. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to attend every argument you are invited to. You don't have to explain yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Growth makes you realize that your energy is limited and you must protect it. You start filtering what deserves your response and what deserves your silence. This filter becomes your defense against distractions. When you grow, you no longer let external circumstances dictate your internal atmosphere. You begin to manage your emotions like a leader. Growth makes you a master of emotional discipline. You learn to be still in the face of provocation. You learn to remain composed when people try to disturb your peace. It's not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to know that reactions can cost you opportunities. Growth is when you realize that some people provoke you not because they are against you, but because they are intimidated by your calmness. And instead of falling into their trap, you stay anchored in your purpose. The more you grow, the more you choose peace over being right. You realize that peace is a greater victory than winning an argument. Growth is knowing that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to say nothing at all. Your growth silences the noise around you, not by shouting louder, but by standing firmer. Mature people don't waste time defending their value to people who are blind to it. Growth teaches you that your destiny is too great to be trapped in cycles of reaction. You become intentional about where you invest your focus. You understand that life is not about reacting to everything that moves, but responding to what aligns with your vision. Growth gives you self-awareness. You become conscious of how much energy you used to waste on things that had no impact on your purpose. You start investing that energy in things that build you. You stop giving your power to people's opinions. You stop allowing small-minded conversations to occupy your mind. Growth sets you free from the need for external approval. You no longer chase validation because you are secure in your identity, and when you are secure, reactions become unnecessary. You don't need to prove yourself when you know who you are. You don't need to defend your worth when your life's fruit speaks for itself. Growth transforms your reaction into reflection. You pause, you think, and then you respond with wisdom. You don't allow situations to control your emotions. You take charge of your responses. This emotional maturity becomes your advantage in life. While others are busy reacting, you are busy building. While others are wasting energy on conflicts, you are investing energy into your calling. Growth is about understanding that not every season requires your voice. Sometimes your silence plants seeds of influence that words never could. You learn that people are observing how you respond. Your calmness becomes a testimony of your maturity. Your stillness becomes an example of your strength. You influence not by reacting, but by remaining composed in the chaos. Growth shifts you from being an echo of negativity to being an example of emotional mastery. When you truly grow, you begin to see that life's battles are not all yours to fight. You learn to choose your battles with wisdom. You realize that some fights are designed to distract you, not develop you. Growth helps you discern which is which. You don't have time to fight every opinion, correct every rumor, or respond to every critic. You are too focused on your assignment. You protect your peace because your peace is a reflection of your growth. The less you react, the more you protect your focus. Growth teaches you that the ultimate goal is not to win every argument, but to win in life. And the people who win in life are those who have mastered the art of not reacting to every provocation. The more you grow, the more you rise, and the less you react. The more you grow, the less you react, because growth teaches you that not everything deserves your attention. In the early stages of life, people feel the need to respond to everything that comes against them. Every insult, every offense, every criticism feels like an invitation to battle. But as you grow, you begin to understand that reaction is not a sign of strength. It is often a sign of insecurity. People who are secure in who they are do not waste energy proving it to those who can't see it. Growth shifts your focus from defending yourself to developing yourself. You realize that every reaction costs you something. Your peace, your focus, your time. And the more valuable your time and peace become to you, the less willing you are to spend them on things that don't build you. Growth teaches you that your assignment is too important to be constantly distracted by noise. You learn that silence is not weakness, but a strategic response that protects your emotional and mental energy. When you grow, you no longer allow your emotions to control your actions. Emotional maturity is when you feel the impulse to react, but you choose to pause. That pause is a sign of power. You understand that reaction is immediate, but response is intentional. Growth gives you that intentionality. You begin to reflect before you speak. You begin to evaluate before you engage. You learn to respond in a way that reflects your values, not just your feelings. People who have not grown will always be quick to react because they are driven by impulse. But when you grow, you discipline your impulses. You no longer feel the need to attend every argument you're invited to. You recognize that some conversations are designed to drain you, not develop you. Growth teaches you to discern where your energy is best invested. You start choosing peace over pettiness, purpose over proving a point. You realize that not everything that demands your attention deserves your response. As you grow, your perspective begins to expand. You no longer see offenses the same way. You begin to understand that most of the time when people attack you, it's not really about you. Their reaction is often a reflection of their own inner frustrations and insecurities. Growth gives you the ability to see beyond people's words and into their wounds. You don't take offenses personally because you understand that hurt people hurt people. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with understanding. Growth makes you rise above offenses that once pulled you down. You develop a thicker skin, not because you are hardened, but because you are focused. Your purpose becomes more important than your pride. You learn to guard your peace like a treasure because you understand that without peace, you lose clarity, and without clarity, you lose direction. The more you grow, the less you are disturbed by external chaos because you are anchored internally. Growth also teaches you to manage your emotional investments wisely. You realize that every reaction is an emotional withdrawal, and if you keep reacting to every trivial matter, you will end up emotionally bankrupt. People who are always reacting are usually drained, distracted, and disoriented, but those who have grown are composed, calculated, and calm. Growth teaches you that composure is a superpower. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to prove your point to be right. You let your character and consistency speak louder than your words. You stop echoing the noise around you and start becoming an example of emotional strength. Growth shifts you from being reactive to being proactive. You no longer wait for life to dictate how you feel. You choose how you will feel regardless of life's circumstances. You become a thermostat, setting the tone, rather than a thermometer reacting to the atmosphere. When you grow, you realize that your greatest weapon is not in how fast you can reply, but in how slow you are to be disturbed. Growth slows your reactions because you understand the weight of your words and the power of your presence. People notice that you don't get flustered easily. You become a stabilizing force in chaotic environments. Your calmness becomes a testimony of your maturity. Growth makes you intentional with your responses because you know that immature reactions can destroy opportunities. You become aware that people are observing not just what you say, but how you carry yourself. Your response to conflict becomes a reflection of your character, and when you grow, you choose to respond in a way that builds, not breaks, that heals, not hurts. True growth is not loud, it's quiet, but it speaks volumes. It's not about proving your point in every conversation, but about preserving your peace in every situation. Growth is when you no longer need to react to external validation because you are secure in your internal conviction. You don't need applause to feel successful, nor do you need approval to feel valued. The more you grow, the less you feel the need to explain yourself to people who are not assigned to your destiny. You conserve your words, protect your energy, and stay focused on your purpose. Growth teaches you that every reaction is a transaction, and wise people don't spend their emotional currency on things that don't produce a return. The more you grow, the less you react, and the more you rise above the noise of life. The more you grow, the less you react, because growth teaches you the value of inner peace. When you are immature, everything outside of you seems urgent, every offense feels personal, every criticism feels like an attack that must be answered. You live on the edge of reaction, constantly pulled into arguments, debates, and unnecessary conflicts. But when you grow, you begin to see that peace is not found in silencing others, but in mastering yourself. Growth shifts your focus from trying to control what people say to controlling how you respond. You realize that not every opinion deserves your attention, not every insult deserves your energy. The more you grow, the more you protect your peace, because you understand that your energy is limited and you must spend it on things that align with your destiny. Growth teaches you to pause before you respond. Immaturity reacts instantly, but maturity knows the power of a pause. That pause is where wisdom lives. It's in that pause where you reflect, evaluate, and choose a response that builds rather than breaks. Growth gives you emotional discipline. You no longer allow impulses to dictate your words or actions. You understand that a quick reaction can ruin a relationship, damage a reputation, or rob you of your peace. Growth makes you aware that you are not obligated to participate in every argument. You are not required to defend yourself against every baseless accusation. You become comfortable with silence. You learn that sometimes silence is not just the best answer, but the most powerful statement. The more you grow, the less you seek to prove yourself, because you know who you are, and you no longer need external approval to feel validated. As you grow, You develop a new level of perspective. You stop taking things personally. You understand that people's actions towards you are often a reflection of what is happening inside them, not a judgment on your worth. Growth allows you to see that offense is often rooted in the insecurities of others. Instead of reacting with anger, you begin to respond with understanding. You no longer waste your time trying to correct every misunderstanding. You allow your character to speak louder than your words. Growth gives you the ability to focus on what matters most. You become strategic with your emotional investments. You stop spending emotional energy on things that do not contribute to your growth. You begin to understand that every reaction is a transaction, and you start investing your emotional currency wisely. Growth teaches you that your purpose is too important to be distracted by petty conflicts. You begin to recognize the difference between battles that build you and battles that drain you. Maturity gives you the discernment to walk away from fights that are beneath your calling. You don't have to respond to everything that is said about you, because you understand that your destiny is not determined by public opinion. Growth frees you from the need to be understood by everyone. You learn that some people are committed to misunderstanding you, and no amount of explanation will change their perspective. So instead of reacting, you continue building. While others are arguing, you are advancing. While others are wasting time with opinions, you are investing time in your purpose. The more you grow, the more you realize that your time is your most valuable asset, and you refuse to waste it on things that don't align with your assignment. When you grow, your responses become intentional. You no longer react out of emotion but respond with wisdom. Growth transforms your character. You become an example of stability in a world that thrives on emotional chaos. People begin to notice your calmness, your patience, your ability to stay composed under pressure. That calmness becomes your influence. People trust leaders who are not easily shaken. Your emotional stability becomes a testimony of your growth. You stop being reactive to life and start being proactive with your purpose. Growth teaches you that influence is not found in how loud you speak, but in how well you lead yourself. You become a thermostat that sets the temperature rather than a thermometer that reacts to the environment. You lead by example, not by reaction. The more you grow, the less you are concerned with how people treat you, and the more you focus on how you treat yourself. True growth is quiet, but its impact is loud. It's not displayed in how fast you respond to an offense, but in how slow you are to be disturbed. Growth is when you realize that being unbothered is not ignorance, it's intelligence. It's wisdom choosing battles, conserving energy, and staying focused on purpose. You learn that your greatest victories often come in moments of silence, not in loud debates. The more you grow, the less you react, because your assignment becomes too important to allow yourself to be dragged into distractions. Growth makes you a person of depth. While others are busy echoing the noise around them, you are building a life of purpose and peace. The more you grow, the less you react, because growth shifts your focus from proving yourself to improving yourself. Immaturity always seeks validation from outside, craving approval from people who do not even understand your assignment. But when you grow, you stop seeking applause from the crowd because you are too busy fulfilling your purpose. Growth makes you realize that every reaction is a transaction. You pay with your peace, you pay with your time, and you pay with your focus. A person who has not grown will spend their energy on every insult, every offense, and every baseless accusation. But a person who is growing learns that some battles are designed to distract you, not develop you. The more you grow, the more you become intentional about where you invest your emotional energy. Growth teaches you emotional discipline. You no longer react to situations impulsively because you understand the cost of reacting. You become aware that a single reaction made in haste can destroy relationships, damage your reputation, and derail your focus. Growth gives you the ability to pause. That pause is where wisdom resides. It is in the pause where you reflect, evaluate, and decide how best to respond. Growth transforms you from being emotionally driven to being purpose-driven. You no longer allow circumstances to dictate your mood. You control your response because you understand that true power is in restraint. You stop fighting battles that don't align with your destiny because you realize that not every attack deserves a reaction. When you grow, you begin to see offenses differently. You stop taking things personally. You recognize that people's negative behaviors are often a reflection of their own struggles, not a statement of your worth. Growth expands your perspective. You understand that their reaction reveals their character, not your identity. Instead of reacting with anger, you respond with understanding. Growth matures you to a level where you no longer feel the need to correct every misunderstanding. You allow your life's fruit to speak louder than your words. You understand that time will reveal the truth, so you don't waste energy trying to defend yourself against every baseless opinion. Growth teaches you to conserve your energy for things that produce results. The more you grow, the more you understand that your peace is priceless. You guard it, protect it, and refuse to give it away cheaply. You no longer engage in conversations that lead nowhere. You don't waste your breath trying to change the minds of people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Growth makes you aware that silence is not a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of strength. You learn to walk away from arguments, not because you are afraid, but because you are focused. You understand that your assignment is too important to be delayed by unnecessary conflicts. Growth teaches you that every moment spent reacting to trivial matters is a moment stolen from your destiny. Growth also transforms your emotional investments. You become strategic with your responses. You start choosing battles that are worth your energy. You develop a filter between what happens to you and how you respond to it. Growth helps you discern when to speak, when to be silent, when to engage, and when to walk away. You no longer react just to prove a point. You respond only when it aligns with your purpose. You stop living life trying to convince people of your value. You begin to understand that your worth is not diminished by someone else's ignorance. Growth frees you from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval. You become content with being misunderstood by some, as long as you are aligned with your vision. When you grow, you influence without reacting. People begin to notice that you are not easily shaken. You become a model of stability in environments of chaos. Your calmness becomes your testimony. Your ability to remain composed under pressure becomes a reflection of your maturity. Growth makes you a person of depth. You are no longer moved by every opinion. You don't allow every offense to disturb your inner peace. You become like a tree planted by the rivers of water, stable, unmoved, and fruitful. Growth shifts you from being reactive to being proactive. You no longer live life responding to noise. You live life creating impact. You become a thermostat that sets the atmosphere rather than a thermometer that reacts to it. The more you grow, the less you react because you now understand that influence is not found in loud debates, but in quiet strength. You realize that your destiny requires focus, not distraction. Growth gives you the wisdom to know when to speak and when your silence will speak louder. You learn to walk away from things that no longer serve your purpose. You become a steward of your time, your energy, and your peace. You understand that every reaction is an emotional withdrawal, so you invest it only in places that will give you a return. Growth makes you choose peace over pride, purpose over proving a point. The more you grow, the less you react, and the more you rise above the noise of life. The more you grow, the less you react, because growth gives you control over yourself. Immaturity seeks to control what's happening outside, but maturity seeks to master what's happening inside. A person who has not grown will always be quick to defend, to argue, and to react because their identity is fragile and needs constant validation. But when you grow, you reach a place where you no longer need to respond to every voice calling your name. Growth teaches you that you are not obligated to attend every argument you're invited to. You understand that your time, your energy, and your peace are too valuable to be spent on every offense that comes your way. The more you grow, the more selective you become about where you invest your emotional energy. Growth brings emotional discipline. It teaches you to pause. Reaction is the behavior of the immature. Reflection is the practice of the mature. When you grow, you develop the ability to pause between stimulus and response. That pause becomes your power. It allows you to evaluate, reflect, and choose how to respond rather than being pulled by the emotions of the moment. Growth helps you realize that a temporary feeling should never dictate a permanent decision. You don't allow anger, frustration, or pride to hijack your responses. Instead, you lead your emotions rather than letting them lead you. Growth helps you become a master of your reactions, not a victim of your impulses. Growth also expands your perspective. You begin to see that offenses are often not about you, but about what is broken in others. Immature people take every comment personally and fight battles that were never theirs to fight. But when you grow, you develop the ability to see through offenses. You understand that people's negative behaviors often stem from their own inner pain and insecurities. Instead of reacting with offense, you respond with understanding. Growth allows you to rise above pettiness. You don't waste your time proving your worth to people who are blinded by their own limitations. You let your life's fruit speak louder than your words. Growth makes you comfortable with being misunderstood because you are more focused on your assignment than on people's approval. As you grow, you develop a strong sense of emotional investment. You start realizing that every reaction is a withdrawal from your emotional bank. And the more you react to things that don't matter, the more bankrupt you become internally. Growth teaches you to become strategic with where you spend your emotional currency. You no longer give away your peace cheaply. You don't engage in conversations that do not contribute to your growth. You choose silence over noise, clarity over confusion, and focus over distraction. Growth teaches you that sometimes the most powerful response is to say nothing at all. Growth also elevates your understanding of purpose. You realize that not every fight is your fight. Some battles are meant to derail you from your destiny. When you grow, you develop discernment. You don't respond to every provocation. You choose your battles with wisdom. You understand that fighting for your purpose is more important than reacting to personal offenses. Growth gives you the discipline to stay focused on the bigger picture. You no longer allow temporary distractions to pull you away from your eternal assignment. The more you grow, the more you protect your focus because you understand that what you focus on, you empower. When you grow, your influence is no longer in how fast you can reply, but in how well you can remain composed. People begin to notice that you are not easily shaken. Your calmness becomes your strength. Your peace becomes your power. Growth makes you a pillar of stability in an unstable world. While others are busy reacting to every situation, you are busy building your vision. Your consistency speaks louder than their criticisms. Your focus drowns out the noise. Growth turns you into an influencer, not by what you say, but by how you carry yourself. You become an example of emotional maturity in a world that celebrates impulsive reactions. True growth is the ability to protect your peace without feeling the need to explain it. You reach a point where you no longer need to justify your silence. You don't need to argue to feel heard. Growth teaches you that your actions, your consistency, and your results will always be louder than your words. You no longer react to prove your worth because you know your worth is not up for negotiation. The more you grow, the less you react, not because you are indifferent, but because you are intentional. You have learned that peace is more powerful than pride, focus is more valuable than fleeting emotions, and purpose is far greater than public opinion. Growth shifts you from reacting to everything to responding to what truly matters. The more you grow, the less you react, because growth teaches you that not every action deserves your attention, and not every word demands your response. Immature people feel the need to react quickly to everything, as if silence is a sign of weakness. But maturity understands that silence is not surrender, it's strategy. When you grow, you begin to value your energy and understand that not every argument is worth the cost of your peace. Growth makes you aware that your purpose is too important to be constantly distracted by petty offenses. You stop engaging in battles that do not align with your destiny. The more you grow, the more you realize that your time and emotional energy are precious resources, and you become intentional about where you invest them. Growth teaches you emotional discipline. You develop the ability to pause between provocation and response. That pause is where your power lies. You understand that reacting in the heat of emotion often leads to regret. Growth matures your ability to reflect before you speak, to evaluate before you act, and to respond from a place of purpose rather than from impulse. You learn that emotional reactions may satisfy pride in the moment, but they often damage relationships and opportunities in the long run. Growth gives you the wisdom to choose peace over being right, and purpose over pride. You become slow to anger and quick to understand, because you recognize that reacting to every offense is a sign of immaturity, not strength. As you grow, your perspective begins to change. You start to see that offenses are often not about you, but about what's broken inside others. People's reactions reflect their inner battles, their insecurities, and their unresolved pain. Growth teaches you to look beyond the surface and recognize that hurt people. This understanding allows you to stop taking things personally. You no longer feel the need to correct every misunderstanding or defend yourself against every false accusation. You understand that your character will speak louder over time than your words ever could. Growth helps you rise above pettiness and stay focused on the bigger picture of your life's assignment. Growth also makes you conscious of your emotional spending. Every reaction is an emotional transaction, and when you react to things that don't matter, you end up emotionally bankrupt. Growth teaches you to protect your emotional currency. You stop investing your energy into meaningless conflicts. You begin to choose silence over senseless debates, patience over provocation, and clarity over confusion. You become strategic with your responses. You understand that not every comment needs an answer, and not every offense needs a defense. Growth teaches you to value peace of mind more than winning a point. You choose to respond when it's necessary and stay silent when it's wise. As you grow, you begin to understand the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is instant and emotional, response is thoughtful and intentional. Growth transitions you from a reactive person to a responsive leader. You stop allowing circumstances and people to dictate your mood. You become proactive in maintaining your peace, knowing that true power is found in mastering yourself. You no longer let people pull you into their emotional storms. Instead, you remain calm and composed, choosing your responses carefully. Growth gives you the ability to control your spirit, which is a sign of true strength and maturity. Growth refines your focus. You realize that every time you react to something trivial, you are giving away a piece of your focus that could have been invested in your purpose. You become aware that distractions often come disguised as offenses. But when you grow, you are no longer pulled into every disturbance. You guard your focus because you know that what you focus on expands. You stop wasting energy fighting battles that don't belong to you. Growth helps you stay locked in on your vision while others are busy getting lost in unnecessary conflicts. You choose to build while others are busy reacting. As you grow, you begin to understand that influence is not in how loudly you respond, but in how wisely you respond. People are watching how you handle offenses, how you manage criticism, and how you navigate misunderstandings. Growth turns you into an example of emotional stability. You become a model of calmness in the midst of chaos. Your ability to stay composed under pressure becomes your silent influence. You no longer lead by reaction, you lead by character. People respect those who can remain steady while everything around them is shaking. Your growth becomes evident not in your words but in your posture. The more you grow, the less you react, because you realize that being unbothered is not indifference, it's intelligence. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to people who are not assigned to your destiny. You learn to walk away, not out of fear, but out of focus. You understand that peace is more powerful than pride, and purpose is greater than personal offenses. Growth shifts you from needing to win arguments to wanting to win in life. Every time you choose not to react to foolishness, you are growing. Every time you protect your peace over proving a point, you are rising higher. Growth is when you stop reacting emotionally and start living intentionally. So as you continue to grow, remember this: reaction is cheap, but discipline is costly. Anybody can react. It takes no wisdom to fight back, no vision to answer every critic, no purpose to argue with every fool. But the person who grows is the person who understands that silence is strength, focus is power, and emotional mastery is the greatest victory. You are not called to fight every battle. You are called to finish your assignment. Every reaction is a choice, and every choice is a statement of who you are becoming. Protect your peace, guard your energy, elevate your vision, because when you truly grow, your success will speak louder than your words, and your character will answer every critic. The more you grow, the less you react, and the higher you rise.